we good? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the July the 1st meeting of the Meridian Transportation Commission. I'm Walter Steed, Chair. We'll start out with the roll call. Mr. Ballard. Present. Mr. Shoemaker.
Here.
Mr. Lancaster. We got an email from him that he was going to try to join by Zoom. We'll see if he shows up. I am here, Mr. Hopkins.
Present.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Heard you both. Mr. Leclerc. Mr. Song.
Here.
On the ex officio side, Mr. Wasson.
Present.
Ms. Kloffenstein. Ms. Carson. Ms. Taysom.
Present.
Mr. Price.
Here.
Sergeant Smith is being covered by Corporal Trevor Wetzel, right?
Yes, sir. Present.
And the legal eagles are here, Ms. Murray.
Here.
And Ms. Hill and Mr. Hood are both present. Mr. Hood was, but he'll pop back, I'm guessing. Okay, first item is the adoption of the agenda. Chair would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Mr. Song, Mr. Ballard, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? The agenda is adopted as printed. Next item is the approval of the minutes of June 3, 2024. Additions, corrections, changes, or a motion? Mr. Ballard. I need you to get on that microphone a little bit, please.
How's that?
Page 3, section 2, first paragraph, well, section 2 only has one paragraph. Second sentence, Ms. Hill noted there was no significant updates month over. Yeah, month over month or updates from last month. Just technical correction.
Just no significant updates from month over from the prior month.
Okay, no significant updates from the prior month. Okay, that's what you meant by month over. Okay. I'll remove my comment.
Well, we'll just have the Scribner's error corrected,
Well, I don't know, it's Scribner error. I understand what she's saying now.
clarified. Let's do that.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mr. Lewis, I didn't see anything else. Did your eagle eyes pick it up?
I didn't see anything else, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Welcome, Tom. Okay, a motion and a second, please, on the minutes.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Song. Okay, motion by Hopkins,
Second. Second.
second by Song. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Minutes of the last meeting are approved. Next item is under old business, transportation projects update. Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So transportation project updates begin on page 6 and go through page 13 of your packet. There's only one item of significance from month over from last, and that's the USTIC Owyhee Storm to Black Cat project update that's included in your packet. And we have Seth from ACHD here this afternoon to give a bigger update on that. So that's really the most significant update in the packet. But I can stand for questions if there's anything else that you have questions on.
Anyone have questions on anything in the project update section? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the ACHD Master Street Map changes. And Mr. Hood, are you going to do that one?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, just a quick follow-up on some on the Master Street Map amendments that we had discussed the 3 months prior. So did take your recommendation to the council, not including Fairview, right? Fairview, we decided to put a pin in, so we'll talk more about that the rest of this year. They concurred with your recommendations, sent that over to ACHD. The ACHD Commission on the 24th of June heard our requests, and the commissioners approved the changes. They are updated on ACHD's website. Edson Bautista at ACHD just sent me an email saying that the arterial street list and the interactive map should now reflect what you all recommended about a month ago now. So pretty brief update, but again, thank you for looking at that with me over the last few months and getting that through the council, and it's already been approved through ACHD.
So just so I understand, you're going to have us revisit the Fairview question.
5 lanes versus 7 lanes, or 100 feet versus 120 feet of right of way on Cherry Lane, Fairview, and looking at that corridor. So yes.
And that'll come back when you've had a chance to get some traffic counts, some data or something?
Right, some information to share, tee it up a little bit so we can have a well-informed discussion. I know Ms. Carson had some concerns, comments about the school and the library and different things. So yeah, we'll put something together to, again, kind of tee it up for the commission to have more of a discussion on what preservation should look for on Cherry Lane.
Okay. Ms. Hill, if you would, put that under future topics on our next agenda, please.
Okay.
Mr. Hood, is that all on that?
Unless there's any questions, yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Hood? Okay. Item number 4, the Linder Road Concept Study.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on June 18th, the ACHD presented to City Council, basically just recapping what was presented here by Brooke and ACHD and what Brian McClure has discussed with you. So ultimately, Council chose the standard 5-lane concept, which was option 2 presented to you back in, I think that was April or May. And so option 2 was the option without the roundabouts at Chateau, Linder, and Sandalwood. So that's their recommendation, is to move forward with option 2. So this is just really just circling back to keep you in the loop and informed.
Any questions from anyone? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. New business, Ustick from Hawaii Storm to Black Cat Project. And Mr. Jarsky from ACHD, welcome. Glad to have you. Is it on? Can you?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, there we
All
go.
right. Afternoon, Commissioners. Seth Jarsky. I'm a project manager with Ada County Highway District, and I'm here today I was asked by Caleb to give you all an update on the Ustick Owyhee Storm to Black Cat project. This is a project that ACHD has programmed for design in fiscal years 24 and 25. Right-of-way acquisition will happen in fiscal year 26, and construction is programmed for fiscal year 27. So I think how I'm going to do this is I was asked to give you kind of a virtual tour of the project, and then at the end, I will debrief the public involvement meeting that just wrapped up recently and give you an update on number of respondents and how that process went. Can I drive anything from here? Or would you like me to come over?
You can either way, and I just want to note for everyone online, there is like a security pop-up that I cannot get rid of. So I'm going to try to remove that if that's what you can see on your screens, because I can see some faces that you're confused. So it's not part of his presentation. We're just have an IT issue.
I don't see anything on my screen. I'm fine.
That sounded a lot like I'd get rid of it if I could.
Yes.
Well, I think it's Russian
As well.
disinformation, but
So I believe on your screen is a PDF that I brought, which shows our 30% design. And what we're looking at here is the Owyhee Storm intersection. And at the left side of your screen, so the westernmost edge of the project, is where ACHD's project ends. And so the intersection you're looking at there is a 6x6 intersection, and that's a Owyhee Storm. ACHD will be constructing that in concrete because this is an arterial roadway, and that's something that we like to do for longevity and where we don't have to go through and chip seal and do all the other maintenance. So on our arterial roadways, for the most part, we do those in concrete. So that's what's shown here today. Heather, if you'll pan to the east or, yep, down, thank you. Two,
This is still page 1. Do you want to go to the next page?
yes, please. And in the center of this page, it shows McDermott intersection, which today is, I think, under construction by ITD as part of their State Highway 16 project. In 2027, ACHD takes back over and we expand and reconstruct the intersection of Ustick and McDermott as shown here, which will have turn lanes and signals and APS and all pedestrian facilities. I should have started with Ustick will be, the treatment it will receive at a high level will be 10-foot multi-use pathways on both sides, a buffer, standard buffer, and it will be a 5-lane section, just like the city of Nampa is doing to the west of this project. So from Phyllis Canal to Owyhee Storm, their project will be working on, it's poor Ustick is going to get so much love over the next several years. They're going to be built out by, starting at the very west will be City of Nampa in 2025. Next segment to the east will be ACHD in 2027. Next segment to the east will be 10 Mile to Black Hat, which will be 2025, this next coming year. And then the next segment to the east beyond that will be back to ACHD in 2026. So all the way from Linder all the way to Phyllis Canal will be under construction for the next 4 years, actually. So it's going to be a very busy, and ACHD is committed to keeping Ustick open during construction. So we're going to get creative with shoe flies and go arounds and traffic control because we're well aware of what's going on with State Highway 16, Nampa, City of Nampa's project, and we've got an active high school at Owyhee Storm. So we're doing everything we can to keep the roadway open during our projects. And at this point, I think, you know, I'm open to walking you through what we showed on our website during the public involvement process, and then can kind of recap the results of the public involvement meeting. I'm open to questions, however you'd like to do this.
So if you want to see road work under construction, drive Ustick over the next 5 years.
That's correct.
If you don't like orange barrels, go somewhere else.
McDermott starting right now. Yeah, McDermott's under construction and really won't end for a few years.
Any questions at this point?
Heather, if you'll flip to the next sheet. This is the eastern edge of the same project. And if you'll go to the next page, please.
could I ask a question?
Please.
Mr. Jarsky, when you talk about the concrete, and I get that at the intersections, I'm talking about the specifications for concrete. I keep reading that they're improving the consistency of concrete. Who calls up those specifications?
During design, commissioners, we have full details and specs that the geotech engineers and the resident engineer who Dale Caparis at ACHD. So we'll outline in detail and specify exactly how the concrete intersections will be constructed.
And do those come from third-party vendors or is this concrete that,
The concrete itself,
yes,
that will come from so that will be part of the construction
bid?
package.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay, thank you.
And then we have inspectors that test every day and pretty much every truck that, just to make sure it comes out of the right material that comes out of the truck.
Thank you.
A trick question that I just thought of. Typically, what is your asphalt thickness for arterials for ACHD?
Commissioners, typically,
Typically, I know it can vary, but
it's a 5-inch.
5? And for concrete?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I haven't built one yet, so be happy to provide you the plans when we get a little deeper.
Just curiosity.
This is high level, 30% design, and then as we dig in, I'll be able to provide more detail. But that will be scrutinized by a team of geotechs and the resident engineers.
Okay,
Next page, Heather, please. Okay, and if you'll zoom in to the top. Okay, so hot off the press, I can't see, there we go. So this is the results of our PIM-1, our Public Involvement Meeting #1 on this project. And we'll have 2 for this project, but we wanted to get this in front of the public early on to show them the multi-use pathways, 5-lane section. A big piece of this design is we're reducing the speed limit of U-Stick to 35 miles an hour. That was a directive by the ACHD Commission that all arterials from now on will be 35 miles. So we received 730 visits to the ACHD project website. We received 44 responses to the survey. So I was a little disappointed in the kind of the feedback, but maybe it's a good thing. So
you were pleased with the visits, but not with the responses?
you know, and I have some percentages here that kind of discuss just the responses that we received. I was a little surprised that, not even 10%. So the public involvement, the virtual meeting was open between May 30th and June 13th, so just a few weeks ago. And Heather, next page, please.
Mr. Jarsky?
Yes.
Excuse me, should have raised my.
Sir.
Not being facetious, I get it, 44 out of 730 visits, but like on my MailChimp, when I send out invites, they give percentages. Is there, are you aware of any statistics if 44 out of 730 is average, low, high?
It's a fair question. I would say, in my personal opinion, it's low. It could be because we did a fine job in displaying what people, and they don't have questions and they don't have comments. I think that's a fair question. In my opinion, I think it's a little low as far as responses.
Fair enough, thank you.
Sure. So this slide here kind of gives a percentage of kind of people's feelings about the project overall. So this sheet shows that there were 44 responses. 64% of those responses loved or liked the project in general. 30% disliked it. That's the 8+5 on the right. The themes of concern and support, there, if you'll scroll down just a little bit. In general, I think what was well received were the proposed multi-use pathways 10-foot wide on both sides. And also in conjunction with that, widening the road. So better throughput for bikes and peds and vehicles. Themes of concerns would be, and I think we saw this throughout the responses, generally the reduction to 35-mile-an-hour posted speed limit was and there were definitely some impacts to private properties as large corridor projects such as this tend to do when we're expanding roadways and adding sidewalks. And next page, please.
if I could interrupt you and ask about the 35 mile an hour, you said that the commission had directed all arterials at 35.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Black Cat today is 40 from Franklin to Eustic, and 45, it used to be 50, north of Eustic. Are those fixing to, as soon as y'all print the signs, drop to 35?
I believe the policy or the stance is that as capital projects, my department goes through and updates these roadways.
Okay.
The design speed will be reduced to 35.
Okay, it's upon reconstruction.
Yes.
Okay.
Fact. Does that sound right, John? I believe that's the answer.
Okay.
Next page down. So this kind of drills into what people think of the Ustick and Waihe Storm intersection, how it was shown a few pages before. 66% liked or loved it, and 14% disliked it. So in general, it was a little better received. I think that expanding the intersection, formalizing the crossing, adding APS signals and full pedestrian crossings for all the students at Hawaii High School, and then I believe there's going to be another school constructed across the street on the west side of Hawaii Storm, maybe elementary. So, and then Heather, if you'll run down to the next page. So, and the results for them, Ustick and McDermott intersection, again, 44 responses, 57% loved or liked it, and 16% did not. So anyway, that's a kind of a high level review of the kind of the feedback we received from the public. Again, it ran for 2 weeks, 700 something visits and 44 responses to the survey. From there, I'm happy to explore the website as ACHD presented or stand for questions.
Questions, comments? Mr. Lewis, you still with us?
I'm here, sir.
Okay, just wondered if you had anything.
I know I don't have any questions, sir.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to come and show it to us, and we can all get excited about driving it or staying away from it, one or the other.
That's correct. Thanks for having me, Commissioner.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're moving right along. Ex officio updates. Mr. Wasson, welcome.
Good afternoon, sir. John Wasson, ACHD. I have no update at this point in time.
I'm disappointed. Got to be something going on out there.
There's a lot of stuff going on out there.
Maybe why you hadn't had time to make an update. Okay, Ms. Kloppenstein, I didn't hear her being present earlier. Has she joined us?
She's online.
Yes, ma'am. What do you have?
Hello, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I apologize. Yes, I am present and have been present during the meeting. So one update for you all, Compass is holding an open house on the Transportation Improvement Program on July 15th at our offices from 3 to 6 p.m. Welcome you to join and learn about the transportation projects planned for the next 5 to 7 years. And that's all for me.
And if you or Ms. Hill could put that out in an email to the commission members as a reminder, it'd be appreciated.
Yeah, I can distribute that if Leela provides me with that information.
Please.
Will do.
Ms. Carson, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have, if you didn't see the article in Boise Dev, we are kicking off our permanent attendance area committee to look at some minor changes that we can possibly make to relieve some crowding that we're having due to development. We also have our new bus contractor that started today. So we got them moved in and they're kicking off. And on Wednesday of this week, they're having an open house and hiring event. There's going to be water slide and bounce house and buses to drive, even if you're not a bus driver, and fun stuff for the community to kind of see the facility and also hopefully get some more bus drivers. So we're excited about that. That is all the updates I have. Yeah, come on. Yes.
He'll be over there.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Mr. Ballard.
Ms. Carson, I was reading an article the other day that the number of lanes on a street may dictate whether the kids that live on one side of the street get to walk to school and the kids on the other side of the street that have to cross X number of lanes, they're bused. Can you clarify or expand on that?
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. So in Idaho, we have safety busing is what we call it. And so every student within 1.5 miles of their school per state code walks to school unless we justify that there's some hazard that we would need to bus them. So the school board approves justification to bus people. Those are the kids that if there's a 5-lane road, especially at the elementary level, there's not a policy or a law on it, but as a practice, we don't typically have kids cross 5 lanes at the elementary level. So that's where sometimes you'll see a attendance boundary or a busing boundary that stops at a 5-lane road. Did that answer your question?
Yes, okay, thank you.
It can have an effect on attendance boundaries as well.
You say it's not a statute or a policy, but somehow this gets decided?
Yes, so we have a safety busing committee that meets. Every single school's area has to be reviewed at least every 3 years, but with the growth that we're seeing, we'll probably be reviewing them more often. And we look at the areas and determine if we think it's safe for kids to travel by themselves to school at a certain distance, depending on what hazards are present.
Okay. Thank you.
You don't just safety bus because of number of lanes or road width. You also do it where you have, without getting into the details, in other cases where it's obvious that this is not a good place for kids to walk, like missing sidewalks or paths or things like that. You do more safety busing than just crossing arterials.
So we take into account missing sidewalks on arterials. So in neighborhoods, on the local roads and the collectors, we're not as concerned about sidewalks. Kids are using those roads after school to ride their bikes, and there's communities out. But if there's missing sidewalks on arterials and we can't find an alternate route for kids within 1.5 miles, then we do look at safety busing them. And sometimes the shortest route isn't the route we would recommend to parents. But
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, may I ask a question to
sir.
Ms.
Sorry.
Carson?
Go ahead.
Cool. You said there's a new bus contractor for West Data School District. Is there a particular motivation behind that switch?
so Idaho is a low bid state. So our contract with Cascade Student Transportation was a 5-year contract with a 5-year renewal. So we've reached the end of our 10 years. We put our bid back out last year, and Durham was the low bid, and that's the company we went with. We are very excited about going with Durham, even though it's a low bid state and you have to take the lowest bid. We are excited about the safety record they have as a provider, and they've been around for, I believe, over 100 years doing school busing. So we're excited to work with them.
Thank you.
Is this another 5+5 contract?
Yes.
Ms. Taysom?
Thank you very much. As you all know, we did launch our service change on June the 3rd, so we're a month in. We still don't have ridership data on improved numbers. I'm looking forward to having those in the next few weeks. In the meantime, we are continuing to assess the routes and seeing if there are any improvements as to timing, et cetera, that need to be done. We are also going to be starting the update to our long-term service plan, Valley Connect. We have selected Jacobs as consultant and are going to be rolling that out. So we'll be in contact with various members of the public, et cetera, to be providing feedback on the update to our long-term.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, can I ask
Ballard.
an unrelated question? Ms. Taysom, David Ballard, not to put you on the spot, and if you need to go and pull the information for a following meeting, do you have demographics on who is using the buses? Because I understand the new launch and the new routes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there information as to, are these elderly people going to appointments, people going shopping, agency employees? I was just kind of curious the other day, who is it that rides the bus?
That is a great question. We do, in association with Compass, an onboard survey every few years. So the data that I'm going to have is going to be a little bit out of date, but I can certainly pull that for you. In general, though, I can tell you that it's used for all sorts of purposes: grocery shopping, doctor's appointments, going to work, school, etc. There's no reason that people don't. There's no task that people don't select to ride the bus for, I guess. But if you would like, I'd be definitely happy to provide that demographic information for you from several years ago.
Well, I'd be interested in that. Again, not being facetious, Mr. Lewis and I, about 10 plus years ago, we were on a bus committee, the fun bus, for the weekends.
Yes.
My wife asked me, how you getting to the meeting? You taking a bus to the meeting? And, you know, tongue in cheek, I go, no, it just doesn't run in that direction. So that's why I was circling back. Because I think that it's important to have public transportation, and, you know, I'm not in marketing and not suggesting how it's done. I'm just curious who it is that rides the bus.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can definitely get that information sent over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a
Oh.
question? Thank you. Last meeting, you said that Valley Ride started some new routes from the village to the town square mall, if I remember correctly. And do you have any updates on maybe how many people are using that route, or if we might need any more? Yes, something like that. Do you have any updates on that route as of right now?
I don't have those updates as of yet. We typically receive confirmed ridership numbers around the 15th of the month for the following month, but I can certainly provide the ridership numbers for the Route 24 at our next meeting.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What we could do in a matter of a few months is have VRT come to one of these meetings and talk about the results of the change and answer questions such as that.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
So if y'all wish to do so, we could do a 3, 4, or 6 month update, depending upon when VRT feels they have enough data to make a good presentation to us. Ms. Hill, if you'd like to scratch a note in the margin for that
I've noted it.
to help me remember. Okay, thank you, Ms. Taysom.
Thank you.
Mr. Price, what's going on in ITD's world?
Oh, there's lots going on. Just one update, Sharon. We have just kicked off planning for a public meeting for Eagle Road. Just had our first meeting this morning, so not a lot of details, except we are looking to schedule 2 meetings. They'll probably be back-to-back days, and we're looking at the last week in August. So we'll have more information as time goes by, but right now we're looking for locations and starting to lay out what those public meetings will look like. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. I do have one question for you, and if this has been put out or stated, excuse me for missing it, will the new Highway 16 from Chinden to 84 be open partially as it gets done, or will it all, and I understand the 84 intersection is going to be a special case, but will they open some sections of it before they open other sections, or it's going to be most all of it at once? Or do you know?
Yep. So some of it is a little bit in flux. What I know is there is a possibility that they could open the interchange to Franklin if the next portion isn't available, because that would be the kind of system to interchange, well, from 84 to Franklin. That's a possibility. I haven't heard for sure if that's going to be the case. Aside from that, I think the plan is to go from 84 all the way to Chinden, open that up all at once with at-grade signals, and then in the future, once it's funded, to come back and do the interchanges. So I don't have all the details where they are specifically, just because they're three separate projects and there was a lot of right-of-way acquisitions needed. And so I think those are moving forward pretty well, but as far as the overall timing, I don't have a more recent update than what Dan Gorley gave a couple months ago. So,
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else with a
Mr.
question?
Chair,
Ballard?
Mr. Price, David Ballard, I attended last Thursday with the Boise Chamber, their Transportation Committee at the District 3 office, an update on the ITD projects. Very interesting. I was going to suggest here that maybe we can get the presenter of that session here in Chambers, because it touched on 16 all the way from Emmett to the freeway, eventual plans there. And you may be aware of that, but I thought that was a very interesting presentation the other morning. Hats off to District 3 putting that together.
yeah. Do you know? So I attended one. We had our board meeting recently. Was it in? I'm just trying to figure out which presentation. I don't know if that was the same presentation, or if you might have an agenda so I could see who did the presentation, and I'd be happy to talk to them about.
Yeah, Justin, let me pull up the, there was an email from the chair of the transportation, Tori Thomas with the chamber. I can
Okay.
forward, and I forget the gentleman's name that did the presentation, but he had a slide and a handout.
Great.
And there was about 5 or 6 projects that spanned, next year all the way out to some wishful thinking, and that's not the right term, but things, as
If money
Highway
was
16.
no object, yeah.
Yes, Highway 16 gets developed, the subdivisions going in, and that's amazing. So, Justin, I'll forward that to you.
Sounds great.
Ms. Hill, why don't you get with Mr. Ballard afterwards and see if you can nail down that, and then we can talk about possibly bringing that forward to the commission, okay?
Okay.
All right. Corporal, what's going on in the police world? Other than looking forward to the 4th of July?
Yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks for the traffic team. We helped run Dairy Days here in Meridian, where we did the parade. We had Patriot Thunder the next day after that, where we shut down Overland and then part of the interstate for a motorcycle ride out to Mount Home. And then obviously we're in the 100 Deadliest Days right now, so we're trying to encourage officers to work overtime grants for the Office of Highway Safety, try and curb some of the issues that we're having. And on the road, so.
I understand it's been a busy last weekend.
Yes.
Not asking for details, just commenting.
Yep, Saturday was a little busy, so.
Y'all be careful out there. Okay. Anything, Miss Murray? From the legal department upstairs? I understand you're getting a new employee. Did I see that in the budget?
That's still to be determined.
Okay,
We really hope so.
all right. Well, don't leave us.
No, I'm not leaving.
Okay,
We need an additional attorney.
okay. Anything on ex officio updates? Okay, next item is actually a question. Traditionally or typically, we either don't meet in September or we go on a field trip. We would like to know what you wish to do this year. And I don't expect you to answer it at this moment, but we need you to start thinking about it. We can do either. So I don't know if we want to give them a date certain by which to get ideas in or what. What would be the best way to do that, Ms. Hill?
I would say sooner than later, just in anticipation of coordination. Like if we're going on a field trip somewhere, we might need to coordinate schedules and set up busing or however we're going to get there. So within the next couple of weeks, I mean, would be great at the latest to just start sending some ideas. I just put it on here as a placeholder just to start thinking about that. If you already have ideas, great. You can send them to me or we can chat after this, just to kind of start pulling those together.
Mr. Chair, what would be some ideas? We went to the traffic signal place a couple times.
Right?
ACHD, their cameras on the road. I've been there once or twice,
Paint shop. We've been to the paint shop.
in the paint shop. Mr. Lewis, where should we go?
Let's see, besides the two ACHD ones you mentioned, we've also been to Campbell Company to look at their pedestrian manufacturing. That was good.
That was last year.
Yeah. We haven't been to ITD sign and signal shop there at the at District 3 in a long time. That could be a possibility.
Have we before gone to some kind of a tour of the school bus operation? Is that something we'd want to do?
I don't know if they'd want to have us.
Like Miss Carson could give us an in there.
What?
Mr. Chair, I know the year that we did Valley Regional Transit was
Oh, yeah.
interesting, and so something similar with a school bus operation. I'm sure we could set something like that up. If you did it at the typical time that the field trip happens, you'd be seeing our PM peak, which starts around 2 p.m. and goes until about 5.
No, good ideas.
Mr. Chairman, as long as there are snacks involved, I'm in.
Okay, I'm going to ask Ms. Hill to put out an email giving you by a date certain to submit additional ideas. And then we will sit down and brainstorm. Ms. Hill and Mr. Hood and myself will brainstorm the possibilities of each of those and what kind of logistics are involved to do it. If that's okay. So be thinking of additional things and send them back to the email when you get it, and we'd like to try to do something. Okay, staff communications, please, ma'am.
Yes, so on page 15 of your packet is the beginning of staff communications. Most of the ones we've received since last meeting is regarding the Beriah subdivision. So there's a few emails in there between Sergeant Smith and a couple of property owners in there, a little bit of back and forth, kind of referring them to ACHD. I was also in communication with Miss Odes, who's on the HOA and vice president of that association. I followed up with her, and she essentially said, I've been speaking with Sergeant Smith. I was referred to ACHD and they're reviewing it. So that's to kind of recap it. It has to do with the stop sign, and you've probably seen that in there, that people are yielding rather than stopping. So there's concerns in there, and I don't know where it's at with ACHD yet at this time, so.
I went over and looked at it. It is a T intersection with stop signs on the through leg. And I went over there and didn't time it for early morning rush or late afternoon to watch what kind of activity there was. The one painting truck that I saw come along did stop. Mr. Watson, have you had a chance to look at this or pay any attention to it, or you want to throw your 50 cents in?
Mr. Chair, John Wasson, ACHD. What I'm going to say ain't popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. We are reviewing it. However, if the sight lines at an intersection are good and the speeds are 20 or 25 miles an hour, you are going to find very few drivers that complete Newtonian physics and stop at an intersection completely. I would dare say that probably 80 or 90% of drivers slow down to 1, 2, 3 miles an hour, make sure it's good, and then proceed through. The police may have a different version, but that's pretty much what we see when we go out is people will come up, make sure it's clear, slow way down, and then continue to go. And for some people, that is a burr underneath their saddle, and that consumes a lot of their attention. We are looking at it. If we make the change, we will make an always stop out of the intersection for 4 weeks. And then we will change it to the way we want it to be. And you will probably hear how horrible it is now that we've taken the always stop away. But that's the way to do it, is you make it, you convert the intersection to an always stop, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, you put the stops in the direction you want it to be, put out the new traffic pattern signs and that kind of stuff. But we are looking at it. We hope to have an answer at the next meeting.
Professionally, why is it signed the way it is right now with the stops on the long leg and not on the?
Methinks that was an agreement between development and the developer to provide low-cost, improper traffic calming to the neighborhood.
Okay. Corporal, the sergeant said that y'all had gone out there and looked at it a little bit. Do you remember anything about what you saw, if anything?
Yeah, so I went out there and sat out there for a little bit, and then I assigned a motor officer to go sit out there because my big truck is less inconspicuous than a motorcycle. So the officer that sat out there for a couple hours and said that it looked like most people were slowing down, like Mr. Wasson talked about, but it was more of like a slow roll through the intersection.
California stop.
Yeah. So nothing that was super egregious, but obviously there are people that are blowing that stop sign. But for the most part, most people are slowing down, clearing it, and then going through without coming to a full stop.
Does it concern you from a PD standpoint?
The officer out there was stopping people for it, obviously, because he's sitting there watching it. But it sounded like it was more warnings, which to me makes it sound like there's not people traveling fast enough through that intersection to make it a hazard. Now, obviously, that's not everybody, because there's the individual that contacted us sent us videos of people completely blowing that stop sign. But it sounds like the vast majority of the people are still at least slowing down for it.
They're aware there's a stop sign there. They're just not totally stopping.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else from staff communications?
I do, and it's not in the agenda packet. I'm going to share my screen. You won't be able to see it clearly with the warning that we have on there. So just to kind of bring back up the Meridian intersection pedestrian safety MIPS task force. Last year, as you may recall, the final report was presented to you. It was after several subject matter experts prioritized and looked at all the intersections in the city. So last week, a budget request of $500,000 was presented to City Council to work towards implementing some of those recommendations. We're still having conversations and we'll be going back to City Council in a couple weeks. So this list that I have on the screen is, there's over 100 projects, but just looking at this one here, this is the first page of projects that were presented to council. And we will be going through this in like the order as presented to them of just further evaluating like costs and evaluating them out because they haven't been really fully scoped out yet. So this is just, these are the recommendations. If we get funding, we'll have to really coordinate with ACHD or ITD and work on a plan and process for those. But at this point, this is just kind of a high level list that's already been prioritized. And we're just seeking funding to then really further those conversations with ACHD and kind of come up with a game plan. So just wanted to at least update you on that, answer any questions or concerns that you may have. I don't know, Caleb, is there anything that you feel need? Okay. So just kind of an update of where we're at and that we're moving forward since this was a priority and we would like to see it continue to be so.
Ms. Carson, you can sleep better tonight knowing your hard work did not go for nothing. Nothing's happening, but not for nothing yet. You put a lot of time and effort in that. Anything else, ma'am?
That's it.
Any questions for Ms. Hill? Okay, we've got 3 items on the future meeting topics. We've added at least one more today. Mr. Hood, anything?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, thank you. Not for future meeting topics, but sort of on the last one with staff communications. It's not in your packet, but I thought maybe Mr. Price would bring it up, but it is open to comment, review and comment on the ITIP, 25 to 29 ITIP at ITD. So you can go to their website, look at the projects. That's open through July. So I thought I'd jump in real quick. This is July 1. Their website's actually been up and running for a few business days now anyways, but I would also just ask you to maybe, if you're so inclined, to send in some favorable comments on the Linder Road overpass. It is in the draft plan and we'd like to see it stay there. Or any other projects in Meridian you may be a fan of. There are different tabs that you'd have to click. The first one, the default one, is on the state facilities, which makes sense on ITD's website. But there are some other bridges and local roads and those other significant projects that are using various funding sources. So anyways, just a quick note that if you're so inclined to review and maybe even comment on the draft ITIP, it is out there and available.
Thank you. Anyone with anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second by Mr. Song and Mr. Hopkins. All in favor?
Aye.
It is 4:25, Ms. Hill, and we're out of here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.